A wave of excitement sweeps across Malava as early tallies begin to circulate, showing Seth Panyako edging forward in the by-election before official announcements even settle. The reaction is instant. Cheers, songs, and sudden bursts of celebration that catch both supporters and skeptics by surprise. It feels as if the constituency has been holding its breath for weeks, only to exhale all at once as the numbers suggest a shift that many didn't expect to witness this soon. People gather in clusters around shops, boda stages, and small open spaces, whispering about the early lead, trading fresh updates from polling station agents, and trying to piece together what the momentum really means. Some describe it as a quiet storm, the kind that builds beneath the surface before anyone truly realizes how strong it has become. The sense of anticipation grows minute by minute, like a drumbeat steadily rising in intensity as evening approaches. At the heart of the excitement is the unusual speed at which Panyako's early numbers pick up. Residents who spent the day at polling stations talk about subtle signs, a steady voter flow, coordinated mobilization, and a kind of confidence that seemed to ripple through certain areas even before ballots were counted. A shopkeeper near Malava town recalls how conversations shifted throughout the day from cautious hope to something more assured, something that felt like the community was witnessing a turning point. For many, the mood had already changed long before the forms were tallied. What makes the unfolding scene more compelling is how the smallest cues begin to tell a larger story. Motorbikes ferrying excited youths weave through the dusty roads, honking and shouting updates. Elderly residents step out of their homes, asking neighbors what is happening, relying on word of mouth that travels faster than any official channel. It becomes clear that the celebration is not simply about the numbers. It's about an energy building around the possibility of a candidate who managed to connect with the ground in a way that resonated deeply. Earlier in the day, long lines were seen stretching past familiar landmarks, from clinics to corner kiosks, and many who had never voted before stood determined under the sun. One first-time voter describes how she woke up before dawn just to be part of what she believed might be a meaningful change for her ward. The act of voting felt symbolic, she said, as though she was participating in a story that the whole of Malava was writing together. Observers wonder how analysts missed the early indicators. Days before the vote, conversations in markets, churches, and village centers had begun leaning toward a new preference. Yet it seems only the people on the ground, the small traders, farmers, motorbike riders, were the ones who sensed the shift. They knew the mood was changing even without graphs and projections. For them, the signs were in the tone of conversations, the way neighbors discussed candidates, and the eagerness in community gatherings. The strength of Panyako's early lead also highlights something rarely captured in political commentary: the importance of ground campaigns. His team is said to have invested heavily in person-to-person engagement, relying on familiar faces and trusted voices within the community. As the early numbers trickle in, stories begin to emerge of the late-night strategy meetings, grassroots mobilization sessions, and volunteers who spent hours moving from home to ensure turnout. These efforts now seem to be reflecting in the tally sheets. By mid-afternoon, some polling stations witnessed scenes that felt almost cinematic. A sudden cheer would erupt from a corner, spreading through the crowd before anyone fully understood what had happened, only to be followed by someone confirming that another form showed Panyako widening his margin. It becomes a day marked not just by voting, but by the emotional ebb and flow of hope, tension, and rising belief. Even children sense the unusual buzz, running alongside celebrating groups just to feel part of the moment. Youth leaders later share anecdotes of witnessing generational shifts at the ballot box. Some say they watched as young voters convinced their grandparents to come out and participate, worrying that the older generation might skip the election due to fatigue or disillusionment. Instead, families arrive together, showcasing an unexpected unity that becomes one of the quiet but powerful stories of the day. It is not common for the youth to pull elders to the polling stations, yet today it happens repeatedly. Meanwhile, the opposing camps remain unusually silent. The absence of counter-celebration or even cautious optimism fuels speculation. Some residents interpret the quiet as a sign that reality is beginning to settle on all sides. Others see it as strategic, a calm held together while waiting for official results. Either way, the silence contrasts sharply with the growing noise from Panyako's supporters. As the excitement grows, some worry whether early celebrations could create problems, crowd surges, unnecessary tension, or misplaced confidence. But for most people in Malava, the day feels too emotionally charged to hold back. The celebrations continue, sometimes with motorcycles circling through markets carrying flags, sometimes with energetic chants echoing through village paths as dusk approaches. Among the most striking stories is that of an elderly man who says he has voted in 7 different elections. He normally leaves the polling station quietly, avoiding political gatherings altogether. But today he lingers, talking to strangers about how this election feels different, how the air feels heavier but hopeful, as though something meaningful is about to shift. His words echo the sentiment of many who sense that this is more than a routine by-election. Even though early leads do not guarantee final outcomes, they influence expectations in profound ways. The more the numbers circulate, the more the community begins to imagine the possibility of a new chapter. For some, it's a political shift. For others, it's an emotional release after years of feeling overlooked. The narrative expands from simple vote counting to a shared sense of transformation in the constituency. Questions begin to surface about whether this momentum might signify a larger realignment within Kakimga County politics. Analysts who initially dismissed Panyako as a marginal contender now reconsider their assessments, noting that turnout patterns and demographic shifts seem to align in his favor. The early lead, though not definitive, sparks conversations about future alliances, party influence, and voter expectations ahead of the 2027 landscape. Turnout patterns themselves tell a compelling story. Certain wards show surprisingly high participation, especially among groups that typically stay neutral. The areas where Panyako campaigned most aggressively throughout the year now reflect noticeable spikes in voter presence. What begins as a simple count transforms into a living map of political behavior, revealing motivations, frustrations, and hopes that have shaped Malava over time. As evening settles, Malava's streets glow under dim shop lights and scattered bonfires lit by energetic youth. Each new update, whether verified or whispered, stirs another ripple of emotion. Families sit outside listening to radios, waiting for the next numbers. Women preparing supper pause to discuss the rumors. Motorcycles continue darting across the village paths, as though carrying news from one end of the constituency to the other. The atmosphere feels suspended between celebration and expectation, like a community standing at the edge of something significant. And as the night deepens, the spirit of anticipation lingers. Whether the early lead holds or shifts, the people of Malava experience a rare moment where political participation feels alive, personal, and shared. A moment that will be remembered long after the final tally is announced.